Holy cow, it is week 7, and we're here to talk about it on the Audible Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, part 1 of the week 7 preview, and perhaps the oldest combined quarterback matchup in NFL history. It's Pittsburgh and it's Cincinnati, and I think that actually might be the case, Bloom.
Oh, wow.
Let's talk about the Steelers side of things and how they can attack the Bengals that don't play defense.
Yeah, the senior circuit. Bengals making some changes, maybe not great changes. Logan Wilson sitting. The offense for the Steelers is warming up. Bengals defense playing with some pride. Also, we have Arthur Smith head coach rumors again. So Arthur Smith is a hot name. Can he show why? Maybe back to Tennessee. Aaron Rodgers is a streamable quarterback this week against the Cincinnati defense. Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, both flex or running back 2 plays. We expect some production out of the backfield. Josh Jacobs had 2 touchdowns last week. Obviously, DK Metcalf, he's hot right now. The things they're doing to get his speed in play are working, even though this isn't really a vertical pass offense. And even though there's not a fantasy tight end we can play for the Steelers, I love the Frankenstein. Like if you put together Jonnu Smith's run after catch ability and Pat Fryermuth's all-around game and Darnell Washington's incredible physical gifts and physicality, I like the 3-headed tight end, Frankenstein at tight end for the Steelers, even though we can't use Frankenstein at tight end in our fantasy leagues.
Okay, how about the Frankenstein? It is the Bengals now with Joe Flacco there. We're looking forward to build on last week. Last week was like a taste. Okay, T. Higgins going to get fed. Jamar Chase going to get fed. They're not going to run the ball. Good. It's against the Steelers defense. Well, they'll probably continue to get fed.
Yeah, this one actually kind of takes me back about 20 years to that John Kitna game whenever the Steelers, you couldn't run on the Steelers and John Kitna threw 50-some passes. Is Joe Flacco going to do that? Is he going to throw 50 passes? Maybe. Joe Flacco, one more ride. He got the ball out quick behind a poor offensive line and had some reasonable success against Green Bay. Steelers defense is pretty good, so you're still going to go with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Even Joe Flacco as a 2-quarterback super flex play. Steelers defense is improving against the run, and Chase Brown and Samaje Perine are in basically a 50-50 split. Cincinnati can't run anyway, so you're probably not looking at a running back play here. Mike Gesicki is out with a pec injury. Tanner Hudson has a concussion, so Noah Fant is there for you. And quick passing, that sounds like Noah Fant get his speed into play after the catch. We'll see if Cincinnati can play spoiler against the first place Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, not a lot of great games on this schedule, but this one has the potential to be one we're talking about a lot. Rams and Jaguars kicking things off on Sunday action. Let's talk about those Rams first and how they're going to attack Jacksonville, which they'll be able to do.
Yeah, the Rams, let's just say do-over from last week. Wind. Ravens weren't doing anything on offense. Stafford didn't really have to push it. Don't know if we're going to get Puka Nacua in this one, though. But you would get Jordan Whittington then, who has a similar skill set, not obviously on Puka's level of a run-after-catch or rugged player. So he would have some, flex value. And, of course, Devontae Adams will get more targets if Puka's out. He's in your lineup either way. And a lot more Kyron Williams. We got to give him some praise because all of the measurables and the reasons that we weren't that high on Kyron Williams, you can see that he's physically not among the most talented running backs in the NFL, but he's getting so much out of his abilities, including last week as a receiver downfield on a 4th down, on a leaping catch. Again, 1 butt cheek equals 2 feet. And even Tyler Higbee as a deep what-the-heck tight end play after he got some praise, had an easy touchdown through play design last week. So the Rams offense, even without Puka Nacua, should have a reasonable amount of success. As far as the Jags offense sees, well, we never know what we're going to get with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. We never know what we're going to get with Travis Hunter, right? Never quite know how the Jaguars offense is going to go. This one's at home against the Rams. Could be some fireworks in this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in London, actually. Remember the conspiracy theories that the Jags, it is
that's their home.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, let's circle all the way back around to those conspiracy theories. We're on the Trevor Lawrence coaster. I remember my nephew Matt Harmon talked about the Kelvin Benjamin coaster, and also Trevor Lawrence against those Rams defensive ends. Yeah, it should be an interesting game. You have the thrill of victory, agony defeat with Brian Thomas Jr. with a touchdown coming off the board last week because of a Travis Hunter penalty lined up in the neutral zone, but you also had a big game otherwise from Thomas. He's in your lineup. Will Travis Etienne get on track? The running game has been hit and miss. He's still in your lineup, but that might be a key to keeping Trevor Lawrence on track. As Travis Hunter going to do anything? If Hunter isn't going to do anything, Lammey Brown, who was open for maybe a long touchdown and Lawrence missed him, maybe Parker Washington. Again, right now we can say ETN and Thomas are in your lineup, and then we shrug our shoulders as we're looking for consistency from the Jags offense.
We're looking for something, that's for sure. Saints and Bears, not great, Bob, on the Saints side of things. And, we'll see what they can do against a Chicago team that's got to be feeling themselves after a big win.
Yeah, big road Monday night win, and the Saints go on the road here. Lucky underdogs, same story as always. Not a lot of wrinkles. Chris Olave, a high floor play. Rashid Shaheed, a high ceiling play. If you get a big play, Chicago's defense has been vulnerable, and we saw Jaden Daniels have some success against them. 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards. With the number one receiver was a banged up Deebo Samuel. So there's some potential there. Alvin Kamara, less potential. See he's going to get traded, a low ceiling flex player running back too. We'll see if there's more Taysom Hill. That's always fun. Maybe not fun for fantasy because it makes the offense more complicated. The Chicago offense isn't complicated, Cease. It's a lot of DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, lots of DeAndre Swift, and then we're waiting to see. We do have a little more information about DJ Moore, Bloom, so fantasy GMs can start making plans.
Yeah, if he spent the night in the hospital, then I would say we have to project the offense without him this week, but we'll see. And if that happens, maybe this is a Luther Burden breakout game. For 2 times now after Monday night, Luther Burden has led this team in receiving yards, even though he still hasn't had more than 30% of the snaps in any game. That could happen if DJ Moore's out, and then that could be the breakout game that changes his outlook. And then, of course, Roma Dunze had a down game, almost had a touchdown, but otherwise didn't have a big game against Washington. We could certainly see him, if Moore's not out there, bounce back. Not much else other than, again, DeAndre Swift looking like he might be running back one the rest of the way that he played. And Caleb Williams, while that lowers his fantasy ceiling, I don't think anybody in Chicago cares. I don't think Caleb Williams cares because this team is about winning. And now out of the bye, they're going to try to get a winning streak going.
The Bears are about winning. What are the Dolphins and Browns about? That's the next game, and Miami side is up first. Okay, it's Cleveland's defense. This one's on the road for Miami. Let's talk Dolphins, and let's talk avoiding some of your Dolphins.
Yeah, boy, oh boy, these are the 2 teams right now that this is just like a depressing bowl. Who are these teams? Where are they headed? What are they about? At least whenever Miami has the ball, like Tua Tagovailoa, we got to see what's happening with his ability to stay upright with Myles Garrett there. We know that Devin Achane is going to stay the constant. Jalen Waddle has been a constant in 2 games without. Tyreek Hill is the number 1. Darren Waller, all he does is catches touchdowns. Now Cleveland's defense has been somewhat of a tough draw, so we'll see if that can keep going. Caught the go-ahead touchdown late after it looked like he was going to be a fantasy bust last week. Julian Hill coming along. But, you saw after this game, Tua saying players aren't coming to players meetings. Mike McDaniel saying, well, players meetings, that's not I think players are showing up otherwise. So, this is one of those situations, Cease. It's almost like the opposite of finger pointing. It's just saying it's not me. Everyone's saying it's not me. With somebody. And, for Cleveland, they're still looking for their somebody at quarterback.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel throw it 50 times for 180 yards. So here we go with another game with Dylan Gabriel, and everyone's just waiting for Shadur Sanders. I'm just waiting for week 12 because I both have Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix on a bye. But either way, let's talk Browns football in this one.
Way to look ahead, Cease. Way to think ahead and look ahead. Although I don't know if you could. You don't want to carry.
I didn't think ahead because I drafted 2 quarterbacks with the same bye.
Well, and I mean, you can't carry 3 quarterbacks for 6 weeks, but it's good to the Cleveland. It's 6 weeks in, and we're still waiting for them to have decent quarterback play. I guess we had it with Joe Flacco. When are we going to see Sanders? I mean, that's almost what I want to talk about. But we should see a lot of Quinshon Judkins in this game. I don't expect Miami to run away with this one. We saw what Kamani Vidal did, his breakout game against Miami last week. Is David Njoku going to play? Probably not. Knee injury last week. Harold Fannin becomes a good play. And then for now, like we said, no Shedeur Sanders, and you said this on the waiver wire show, Cease, that if Shedeur Sanders gets in, now all of a sudden Jerry Jeudy, maybe even Isaiah Bond, who's emerged as the other starter, we'll see what happens when Cedric Tillman's healthier. Maybe there is some potential there, but not with Dylan Gabriel. As really, it's up to Miami to put some offense on the board, or this could be a very boring ball control kind of game.
Yeah, it could be boring ball control. Could be we'll see what we get in this one. Not very exciting, but next one is 4 games down, 4 games to go in part one of the week 7 preview here on the Audible. New England Patriots time. Not Tennessee Titans time, but let's talk about the New England Patriots and Drake May. Could he be the best of that draft class? Well, that draft class looks pretty damn good right now. And JJ McCarthy and Spencer Rattler, of course. But Patriots, Titans, everyone's going to be watching with popcorn of like, is Drake May going to continue to ball out?
Wow, could these teams be in more different places in their franchise arcs right now? And of course, the common connection here, Mike Vrabel, the Mike Vrabel Bowl. Tennessee might wish they had Mike Vrabel because New England looks like a potential spoiler team in the playoffs. The way they're playing, the way their defense is coming along, the way their offense is coming along, the way that Drake May looks like right now, like one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. Honestly, the way he's playing, he is putting on a show. Maybe this could be a Ramondre Stevenson show. Didn't score on his 2 opportunities last week, had 2 touchdowns the week before that. Against Tennessee, the opportunities are going to be there. So Ramondre Stevenson is at least a what the heck flex. Travion Henderson, role not growing, even with Antonio Gibson out, still a what the heck flex. Even Hunter Henry has a little more attractiveness as a tight end play. Kayshon Boutte, I know it's been inconsistent week to week, but at the very least, the upside there gives him a wide receiver 3 flex spot, at worst a what the heck flex spot. Same with Stephon Diggs, who didn't have a big game last week after back-to-back big games in week 4 and week 5, but it's Tennessee. It's a team, and see, sometimes when a coach gets fired, a team gets like an emotional boost, ding dong,
Right.
the witch is dead. I don't feel that from Tennessee. I just feel like this is a team that is wandering in the desert, and you got to feel bad for Cam Ward that this is where he landed, and this is how his journey is going to begin.
Yeah, we'll see how many number 1 overall picks got the coaches fired or the coaches were fired in the first year. It's about fit. They don't have the fit. I actually just want to talk about next year with the Titans, but if you
Right.
got anything for week 7, let me know.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Arthur Smith,
Ugh.
Matt Nagy.
Ugh.
Cease, I saw someone say, "How can we do this again?" And it's more like with the NFL, you should be more surprised when they don't do it. Be more surprised when they don't recycle somebody. I mean,
Well,
we're
and it
looking.
doesn't help when Mike McDaniel, anytime they go outside the box and it doesn't work, then the league goes,
Yeah.
see, we
See?
can't hire a genius kid with khakis and a vape
Right.
pen.
Right. Whereas if Mike McDaniel had landed in an organization that had a more established culture, then maybe it would have gone differently. Then the owners never look in the mirror and say that the owner or the culture of the organization might be the
Do you
problem.
want to tell a billionaire they make a mistake?
Yeah. Good luck. So as far as fantasy, Tyjae Spears, he's getting more of the work on the passing downs, 2-minute drill. Van Jefferson, Calvin Ridley goes down with a hamstring. Don't think we're going to see him this week. Van Jefferson was the leading receiver. It's like you said, Cease. I mean, Alec Omanor, no, sheesh. Chigo Conquo, maybe, but they like Gunnar Helm. That's the thing. This is a team now. Cease. This is a team now that should be in. Let's figure out who fits in the program going forward. But there's no program. There's nothing to see who fits in it. How can you know if it's a good or bad fit if there's nothing to fit in?
The old 80s song, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. Bomb. Remember that song?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I just don't know how I pulled that out, but yeah, that's what you have right now. You just have mutiny. Like, hey, let's crew up and hopefully be together next year. Let's crew up and talk Raiders and Chiefs in this one. And well, how are the Raiders traveling against and playing against the Chiefs going to look in this contest? We know that it hasn't been great for a lot of your Raiders players.
Yeah, this is one that will test whether divisional matchups and familiarity can be more determinative than just looking at these two teams where they're at right now. yeah, the Raiders beat Tennessee last week, but Kansas City is flying high. Geno Smith in Arrowhead, he has played in Arrowhead before with Seattle. They lost 24-10. He was terrible. I don't know why that would change. Pick up the Kansas City defense for this week. Although you could see Trey Tucker, at least as a what the heck flex. I don't think we're going to see Brock Bowers. So Michael Mayer is a fine plug-in at tight end this week. Jacoby Myers, I mean, his low ceiling, high-ish floor as a wide receiver flex, but you wonder too about him as a player that would get traded with the Raiders. It's not happening for them this year. So he asked for a trade in the preseason. Does he get that trade soon? He hasn't had a good fantasy game, I think since like week 1. So yeah, and poor Ashton Genty. It's not as bad for him as it is for Cam Ward, but it's pretty bad. He needs a better team around him. Still on your fantasy lineup.
Look at the AFC picture, and then look at the Chiefs with more Roche Rice. Okay, who can go on a run and get there again, even in a down year? Sounds like Kansas City.
Yeah, right. Mahomes to Rice is back this week. Rice is back in your lineup. Obviously, Mahomes, he could lap the field in fantasy the way it's going. He is the most valuable fantasy quarterback, period. There's no one I'd rather have on my fantasy team, especially for this matchup. Travis Kelce's been better than expected. And even if Rashee Rice takes away some of the targets Kelce's been getting, there should be more room to operate in the middle of the field. So Kelce, defying age expectations, not as old as Flacco and Rodgers, but has more usefulness for your fantasy lineup. The momentum is not there for Xavier Worthy. Again, maybe they do connect on a deep shot with Rashee Rice, loosening things up even more with the aggressiveness from Mahomes. So Worthy's a wide receiver 3 flex type play, even though Marquise Brown's coming off 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't expect a repeat of that. And the main thing we're watching here is how to make sense out of the backfield. Because on one hand, boy, does it make sense for this team to trade for Breece Hall. Just whatever. Give a second round pick. I don't care. I mean, that's the piece that would put this offense over the top. But they're looking at Isaiah Pacheco. He had 60, 70% of the snaps last week. He had 4 red zone opportunities. Didn't convert on any of them. But if this offense is scoring a lot and Pacheco is the primary option in the backfield, if he can maybe make a case in this game that they don't need to go get a Breece Hall, they don't need to go get an Alvin Kamara, that could make him a surprisingly valuable player down the stretch. But we know this is going to be one of the most valuable offenses, no matter who's in the backfield.
Okay, Philadelphia, Minnesota up next. Philadelphia, got to get back on that winning track, man. After dropping 2 in a row, how do Jalen Hurts and company kind of circle the wagons, so to speak?
Well, that's it. I mean, this is probably the most intriguing game for one side in terms of what's next. Because when Lane Johnson is speaking out, when Lane Johnson is saying, yeah, we're a little predictable, something has to change. Something has to change. Jalen Hurts looked not very engaged in the second half against the Giants. The fantasy stats were there. It was okay fantasy game, but he was not very engaged. Also, this offense has lurched, run heavy, pass heavy, no matter what they've been doing. It hasn't been successful consistently. They don't have an identity on offense. And they're facing Brian Flores, who's happy to sweep the leg. Now, it is the Eagles' offensive line, which hasn't, there's some finger pointing there with the offensive line. But how does the team respond? I have trust in Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has punched his way out of the corner so many times in his career already. I have confidence in this organization. So I would err on the side of playing A.J. Brown, err on the side of playing Devontae Smith. Saquon Barkley, hopefully you have some more creative ways to use him to get him in space, to help him have ways to affect the game. We know that Dallas Goedert's going to affect the game. 4 games in a row with a touchdown, 5 touchdowns over that span, 9 for 110 last week. So we know that he's the one guy that Kevin Petula playbook, as he foreshadowed in the offseason. So he's in our lineup. But this is a really important game. And see, I think you put it well, where usually like the Super Bowl hangover is, the team that loses. But this is a team that has some turmoil, but it could be the kind of productive turmoil that if, coming out of this, they do find their offensive identity, then this is still a team in a wide open NFC that could make some things happen. And one of the teams that wants to be in their way is
they want to be there. Can they be there? And who's going to be playing quarterback if they are there? That's the question with the Vikings. A lot of further season-long questions with them, but let's talk about week 7 at home in this matchup.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Carson Wentz, and then how Carson Wentz performs in this game could affect who we see going forward. When Kevin O'Connell is saying rebuilding the foundation, that doesn't sound like we're just getting a few things tweaked to get JJ McCarthy ready. This sounds to me like, based on the first two games, was he really prepared? Was he prepared enough? And now you've seen what Carson Wentz can do. So this is going to be interesting. Philadelphia defense last week, not so good against the Giants. So you can run the ball on Philly. I think you're going to see a Jordan Mason game, but also Quinyon Mitchell went out with a hamstring. I think you're going to see a Justin Jefferson game. You still have Jordan Addison as a what the heck flex or wide receiver, 3 flex making plays. You still have TJ Hawkinson, who's had 3 solid games with Carson Wentz. So that's the other thing for fantasy where we sometimes get detached from real football. You want Carson Wentz to keep starting. If you have Minnesota Vikings on your fantasy team, you want him to play well. You want him to seize this job. Again, it's not a great slate of early games on Sunday, Cease, but this one is going to be very meaningful.
Very meaningful and interesting to take in. Carolina and the Jets, not as interesting.
No.
Final game we're going to talk about today, part 1 of the Week 7 preview. But Rico Dowdle makes it more interesting.
Right.
And I guess Bryce Young makes it interesting when he actually starts playing good.
Right.
We're back.
Right. Here comes Rico Dowdle. Here comes Bryce Young. Here comes Aaron Glenn and the Jets defense. You know, I saw Bo Nix and company really praising the Jets defense. They were so good. You've been watching the Broncos so closely for years and years. How much of last week was Denver still underachieving on offense, and how much of it was maybe Aaron Glenn is figuring something out on this defense?
They're playing for Aaron Glenn. You know what I mean? Sean Payton even said that. Like, you can tell those guys are playing for Aaron Glenn. It's not, it's rumored to be one and done, and it's the Jets. Lord knows they're a disaster. But yeah, they're playing for him. You can tell.
Yeah, so it's something to think about, but I think Bryce Young, Jets defense has been atrocious until last week. So Bryce Young still has some streamer quarterback 2 super flexibilities. He had his best game of the year last week, making plays under pressure, making plays with his pocket presence, extended plays. And of course, Rico Dowdle and his energy, just indefatigable, crackling sparks flying off of him. Even if Chuba Hubbard's back this week, I think Dowdle's the one that stays in your lineup, and we'll see how this split goes. And then Tedero McMillan, I'm not saying to bench him, but he's going to face Sauce Gardner. We saw what Sauce did to Cortland Sutton. We saw what he did the week before to George Pickens. Pickens did catch a long touchdown on him, but it's Bryce Young. It's not Dak Prescott. Jalen Coker, that's the guy. Is he going to be back this week? Because if he is, he's a slot receiver, and we saw what Adam Thielen did in that role with Bryce Young when Bryce Young's game got online late last year. And Coker can add more value to his targets. Coker has more big playability. He can even be like a vertical slot. So maybe let's see what Dave Canales' chess game is like, knowing that the piece Ted McMillan will probably be taken off the board. Who will step up in his place?
And let's take a look at what the Jets can do.
Yeah. And the offense play for Aaron Glenn?
Can the offense play?
Period. Well, that's the thing, Cease. Justin Fields, like, you don't even have a functional pass offense, okay?
Now you don't have Garrett Wilson.
Right. Now you take away Garrett Wilson. So, well, there's targets there for Mason Taylor. I don't want to depend on Justin Fields. Period. I definitely don't want to play Justin Fields. I'll watch him have some massive game. Breece Hall, even, last week he got 22 carries, 59 yards, touchdowns. Come on, this team is allergic to the end zone. And then on top of that, he didn't catch a pass. The 2 weeks before that, he had caught 9 balls, 4 at minimum from Fields. Okay, it would make sense, Tanner Angstrand. And, I was saying maybe he'd be someone we'd be saying his name with a positive association, but anything. Breece Hall, I think, could do okay in this game, although the Panthers' run defense, Derek Brown's back. They've come alive. They shut down Javonte Williams last week. So even Breece Hall is a dicey play. And yeah, the poor Jets. Well, at least they can play for Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, there you go. All right, that is a wrap for part 1 of the Week 7 preview. We'll have part 2 coming out on Thursday there as well. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at The Audible, saying thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, stay frosty